Are you familiar with the fiction of Gene Wolfe? He was a very ambitious writer. He had some stories in Dangerous Visions and other fairly radical, science fiction publications.
Hmm.
Very experimental. And then he went on. He's most famous for his books in the '80s. The first one was published in the very late '70s. They're the New Earth, or sorry, the Book of the New Sun. So you have Shadow of the Torturer, Claw of the Conciliator, and stuff like that. Um,
Hmm.
they, but the reason I bring it up is that he was really heavily into ancient cultures and their outlooks.
Hmm.
He wrote one set of books set in mythic ancient Greece, and he really, really liked the idea of saying it how they would say it,
Hmm.
as he would, as he considered it. Actually taught himself ancient Greek to do it. He was one of those guys.
Wow,
Yeah,
one of those.
yeah, exactly. And he was in that particular series, which is called the Soldier books, Soldier of the Mist, Soldier of Arte, and then there's a third one. These are particularly successful in this. When he meets a mystic being, he speaks of them very naturalistically. I met the black man today. The black man spoke to me. And you're not sure if he's just talking about an African fellow or whether he's talking about, something a lot more significant in
Hmm.
symbological terms, symbolic terms. And he's, um, I think, really good at not really telling you. You just have to follow along with it and roll with it, and then you, as the reader, sort of understand, that he was talking to Dionysus.
Hmm.
Um, Now, he also played games with memory in those books. He loves the author loves memory and is always messing with memory. In this
Hmm.
one, the character has taken a head wound and keeps a diary so that he will know what happened. And so
I
he
wonder if
only remembers
the
it
movie Memento stole
yeah,
that.
well, right, exactly. Well, what's interesting is that the document you're reading is the found diary.
Hmm.
And it's very explicit. You can figure it out if you're careful. You can figure out when he has reread and when he hasn't.
Huh.
Right. So
Nice. Yeah.
sometimes he'll go back all the way to the beginning and read it from the beginning, and he'll say, "Wow, I've, really," and he'll have insights that he didn't otherwise know about. Other times he hasn't had time, and he's just rolling with the new day. A woman
Hmm.
came up and started speaking to me about this, and we know who the woman is, but he doesn't.
Huh.
And there's a character who changes from being, well, very ancient Greek, right? He changes from being a man into a woman, and the process of that happening is a good track of what our main character does and doesn't remember.
Hmm.
And so, but that feature is not in your game. What it is a device for us to, is a literary device. It's there to help us be weird.
Hmm.
But even without the messed up memory, everybody in the story is dealing with the mythic as if it were normal,
That's right.
right? And
That's
so
right.
that's why I bring it up at such length. The notion here is there may be a process, and part of it may be play itself. It may even require play itself. In playing Sorcerer, there are certain key phrases that I know I must use with new players during the first session. There are things I have to say
Hmm.
for them to finally snap into place of what we're doing here. In
Hmm.
Sorcerer, a very good example is it's not your friend. So it's like when the main one of the characters is trying to see if, well, I'm going to talk to my demon. Maybe my demon can tell me about it, and the demon will tell him something.
Right.
And then there's a really good one in a recent game when somebody was like actually asked the demon advice. What should I do about this? And the demon told him, and the player's looking at me in horror. And I was like, it's not your friend.
Right.
And the player's like,
Yeah.
wait, oh, okay. This
Right.
isn't that role playing game. This
Right.
isn't that role playing game.
Yeah.
I've got to cope with the fact that I have this relationship with a demon. I better get on top of this,
Hmm.
right? And so, so who knows in your game whether it is some process of character creation, some emergent process of character creation, whether it's what you present at the start, which hopefully isn't a 90-minute lecture on pre-modern thinking, right?
No. Yeah.
And but whatever it is you say, because you're going to say something. So whatever it is you say, and then whatever procedure we go through to get our characters to play or find out where we are, even we're playing in this mountainous forest village.
Hmm.
Whatever it is we go through to do that, and then whatever it is that you have us do during play or say during play, perhaps in that kind of ready for it way. When somebody says, well, I'm going to try and, investigate, and then they start talking like the X-Files, and they start talking like,
Right.
can I go talk to the wise woman, or whatever, right?
Right.
And you're going to have to use some kind of way of responding to that at the table that helps the person blink and say, we're not playing that game, are we? Right? And I
Right.
don't know what that
Yeah.
is, but there's got to be some combination of those three things: initial presentation, process of engagement through character creation and other things, and experience of early play. There's got to be
Hmm.
some combination of that gets us all on board to the point where you're not just freaking constantly correcting us every single time we open our mouths.
Yeah. That would ruin it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So but there has to be something.
Hmm.
So so I'm really interested in what that is. You'll have to, I mean, for later, um, and knowing how these things change, because I want to feel as a participant as though when I look at the changes, I look at the changes in my woodsman, what he's gotten better at, how his skills have changed, and how his willpower looks, and what that means, as you said, in face and bearing. I will
Hmm.
simply bodily role play him as I speak differently
Hmm.
now than I
That's
used to.
right.
So those are changing. I need to look at those, and I need to look at the effects of what has happened in our situations. And I need to say those procedures that we followed, the way the dice were rolled, who rolled them and told me what,
Hmm.
the way we did that gave us these changes. And they
Hmm.
wouldn't have given us these changes unless we had taken our own volition into the situation.
Absolutely.
Right. So, but
Yeah.
then you look back and you say, I'm glad I played this game with these people and saw these changes.
Hmm.
That's the key to a good design. You're glad you played this game, not some other game,
Right.
with these people for these changes, that you look at these changes and, in your game, because you have repeated play, I look at it and I say, yeah, what's next?
Hmm.
What this is who he is now. What's next?
Hmm.
He adopted the sick child that we saved and isn't, sick anymore. And that
Hmm.
child is 3 years older now. So there he is next to my guy.
Hmm.
What's next? Bring it. And so with in games that are sort of more short-term play, the equivalent that I would say is, well, we're done, but I'll do it again sometime. Or I'll tell someone else that they should do it because I'm glad that I played this game with these people.
Hmm.
And that's sort of the same thing. Somebody, somewhere is going to be encouraged to play because of this. So, So that's what I mean now. It's what I always meant by system does matter.
Hmm.
We look at the actual nuts and bolts procedures of all kinds and say, did it help to get that effect?
Right.
And so it's absolutely the anti notion that there's an role playing experience that all the actual procedures just approximate. It's
Right.
completely the opposite of that. So,
Yeah.
with that in mind, if we were to continue this as as a console, if you want to, then
Hmm.
I would suggest that we would enter into uh, a fairly intensive look at those factors that I talked about, the prep. Um, that would be one topic. Another topic would have a lot to do with, I guess, relationships among characters becoming their own dramatic circumstances. Real
Hmm.
interested in aspects of that in your game. So the there's other things too. Downtime play. Do we get to see the characters work, live, farm? Many of the games we're talking about have a timed seasonal component. Pendragon's very famous for actually playing through the seasons of the year. The actual adventure part of the year chronologically is a very short period, and the other things your character does, what happens with the household, whether you have a child born, all those things, your character
Sure.
ages. People have been known to play
Hmm.
Pendragon through several generations.
Hmm.
Where this guy dies, either is killed or dies of old age, and you start playing the son.
Hmm.
So I'm not saying this stuff is necessary for your game, but I'm very interested in, if it's not part of the mechanics, then what are the equivalents and how are they handled?
Hmm.
Because the passage of time, I mentioned, a 3-year gap for the, or a 3-year process for the kid that I made up.
Hmm.
And I'm interested to know what element of that is actually in the game. Um, so those are some of the questions that I would address. Also, last thing for tonight, if that's okay,
Hmm.
what's your notions of success for this thing? What do you want to do?
To get it out of my head, to get it out of my life.
Me and
I
Vincent all say the same thing. Why do you design games? Because I'm crazy.
Yeah, this is absolutely true. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you before, but I had actually stopped for a solid decade role
Wow.
playing, and I turned to writing, and I've written a few books. And then out of the blue, this is terrible. I have a dream where I fix the melee mechanic. I actually fixed the mechanic in a dream and then could not stop working on it.
Damn
And this has been
brain.
going on. Yeah, it's terrible. So I literally want to get it out and in a publishable form that is clean, where someone does not need me sitting there
Right.
answering questions.
Right.
They can just take it. And I have three very talented artist friends who have said that they're willing to do the artwork. But even if they all fall through, I would want to release a version that is not marketable because it wouldn't be pretty. Because I know that that's part of it. And I just want to get it out. The other thing I would love to do is to and I've done all the work on Excel to let Excel crunch the numbers. I want to make a version for the visually impaired
Oh,
where they
right.
can they
Right.
can push a button and it will say um, left arm received a moderate
Oh,
wound.
right. Right.
It's and other things. And this is stuff where I made little things for D&D for blind friends. And this is a side project, which is actually, it became more incorporated where it's so much easier now than it was 10 years ago
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
to do all this. And so this is one of the side things, but it's not primary. It can't be primary because the time investment is probably double the time of system development. So I have to bracket that
Right.
maybe as a wish list. But genuinely, I need to get this out of my life.
I got you.
And yeah.
So in that case, let's think in terms of minimal production.
Hmm.
Minimal doesn't mean skeletal. I mean, ideally, you would
Yeah.
like to have good pictures because they help learn, they help teach.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
And
everything.
you
Yeah.
also have I think, an interesting problem. Not exactly a bad problem, but an interesting problem in that teaching how to do it, which is a mixture of inspiration and instruction, teaching how to do it is different from simply explaining it.
Hmm.
Explaining it is its own problem. Have you explained it actually, effectively? Did
Hmm.
what you write actually explain what to do and how it works? So, explanation is an important thing. Inspiration and instruction are different. And as I have said to people many times, you don't actually explain everything about a language when you teach it to somebody. They aren't going to
Hmm.
learn how to use the language that way.
That's right.
And so it's similar with role playing. And you can think, I'm sure, of many texts that have borked it
Hmm.
because they're busy explaining everything and they never instruct in a way of saying,
Yeah.
okay, for now do this, now come back,
Hmm.
stuff like that.
Hmm.
And role playing in general suffers from a poor pedagogy. We don't know.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so in this case, the goal is to say, all right, what not only is the best explanation, not what am I doing, how do I explain it? Now for the hard part, how do I teach it?
Hmm.
And so that's why working on the final product right now is probably a bad idea.
Hmm.
Instead, we have to get all that backstopped before you then say, okay, now what is the best way to teach this? Um, the that may actually be our top topic because that's the way you're going to get it out there and feel comfortable that somebody can pick it up.
Hmm.
And if you never feel as though you've managed to get that out there, you can keep polishing your explanations for forever.
Yeah.
And yet you'll never be happy with the actual text. It won't, you know, fly into other people's hands.
Right.
So let's focus on that as well, on the proper questions that one must ask. In many ways, will have to be imaginative and inventive because, like I said, we don't have a manual for that.
Hmm.
So we have to, actually come up with the way. All right, man. Great to see you. It was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Good to meet you, Ron.
And take care. I'll see you later.
All right. Take care. Bye bye.